Alright, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back one last time to Modern Warfare 2. Now, normally this is the part where I give a disclaimer saying, oh, you know, I'll be back on this game eventually whenever I get bored of Modern Warfare 3 or whatever, but to be honest with you guys, I think I'm kinda done with this game. Anyway, for those of you guys who are new to the channel, and there's a lot of you this year, this is my yearly wrap-up video where I just sort of talk about not only this game and my thoughts on it and the things I liked and didn't like, but also the channel and how it went over the course of the year and how I was feeling about the different videos I made, because even though I have been moving away from Call of Duty a little bit this year, it's still a staple of the channel, and it's a good way to kind of benchmark year over year how I'm doing. Full disclosure, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of gameplay cuts or highlights or anything like that. It's mostly just going to be me talking, and yeah, let's get started. As always, make sure you leave a like if you are enjoying the video, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I forget what about 90% of these maps look like, so if there's some really weird cuts in this video, that's why. Modern Warfare 2. What an absolutely bizarre year this has been, huh? I mean, I guess obviously we got to start at the beginning with the beta, right? And the funny thing is, the beta on this game actually had me very optimistic for how this year was going to go. I remember feeling really good about the game's pacing in comparison to Modern Warfare 2019. At the time, I didn't even really mind the lack of slide canceling or the movement or anything, because in the beta, the pacing was actually a lot better. Now, granted, at the time, we didn't realize that the reason the pacing was faster was because the maps that they put us on in the beta, those being Farm 18, the Hotel, Rosado, and I forget what the other one was. Was it the Museum? That one doesn't count so much. Nobody really liked that. But those other three maps are some of the faster maps on this game. We just didn't know that at the time. But yeah, I remember coming out of the beta feeling really positive about this game. I thought it was going to be a good year. And I was genuinely hoping that Infinity Ward would be, you know, receptive to the things that we said as a community, and hopefully by the end of the year, we would have a product that we were really happy with. And as we all know, that didn't end up happening, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. What the fuck are you doing? So yeah, coming out of the beta, I remember really liking the pacing. I thought the gunplay was pretty fun. I didn't mind the movement, but then the full game came out and we started to sort of figure out what the deal was going to be for the rest of the year. Right off the bat, we realized that the game was a lot slower than we had initially thought coming out of the beta, and this was due to a lot of factors. Obviously, the maps were one of them. A lot of the maps on this game outside of, you know, Farm and Mersado and the Hotel played a lot slower than they really did on the beta. The skill-based matchmaking also fed into that a bit. I know people were complaining about the inclusion of skill-based matchmaking in the beta, much like they did for the Modern Warfare 3 beta, but when you add skill-based matchmaking to a game like this that is ultimately designed to play a little bit slower than something like Modern Warfare 3, you end up with games that are just an absolute camp fest, right? So yeah, the pacing of the game was not the best. A lot of matches ended up being very slow, much like Modern Warfare 19, and this was where the movement started to become a problem because people quickly realized that unlike Modern Warfare 19, where, you know, if somebody was posted up on a head glitch or something, you could abuse the movement, slide cancel on them, get around them, and sort of outplay them to try and get them off of that spot. You could still press them in that way if you were good enough, but in this game, we obviously did not have that option. Another thing that became pretty quickly frustrating once the main game came out was the weapon leveling system. In the beta, it wasn't so bad because we only had access to a select few weapons, but once the full game came out and people started going for camos or just trying to get their loadouts of choice leveled up to the point where they could get attachments on them, we again pretty quickly realized what a pain in the ass this system that they'd set up is. As far as having to do things like unlock attachments on other weapons in order to use them on the weapon you wanted to have it on, and you had to like use a certain attachment on a different weapon in order to unlock that weapon in the first place. It was honestly just a mess. Now, one positive point I will attribute to this game is that they did do a good job somewhat simplifying the camo grind. Like, yeah, a lot of the camo challenges are still really stupid, but the fact that you didn't have to do a million of them anymore the way you did for Damascus, and, you know, for the most part, they were pretty straightforward, was actually kind of nice. Especially for me, where, you know, once these games come out, I tend to go for the sniper rifle camos right away, which I think I actually got done in record time. Now, moving back to the overall gameplay, obviously I'm glossing over some things like issues that we all had with the game when it came out, but I'm really just trying to pick out the broad problems that the bulk of the community were complaining about once the game released and trying to petition Infinity Ward to fix. Obviously, there were other things like red dots on the minimap, dead silence as a perk, things like the flashes and concussions being absolutely ridiculous for most of the year. Like, this game had no shortage of necessary tweaks, right? But unfortunately, the third main thing that we found out once the game came out was that Infinity Ward decided to not be really as receptive as we had hoped they would be coming out of the beta. As far as like community feedback and things we wanted changed, right? We had hoped that they'd learn their lesson from Modern Warfare 19 and wouldn't, you know, hard commit to this vision for the game that they had as far as it being this like tac shooter or whatever, and they would actually listen to us and change things to make the game more fun, but unfortunately that never really ended up happening. The result of this was pretty much what I said happened to Vanguard. Yet what was actually a decent foundation for a game ended up getting completely ruined by the fact that the game had some issues that people would have liked to see fixed that were ultimately just never addressed for one reason or another. I've mentioned the flash flashbangs on this game about 1,001 times, and the reason for that is they're the quintessential example. Flashes were so broken that Infinity Ward literally had to add an accessibility feature to stop people's TVs from blinding them, but for whatever reason, at no point they decided that it might be necessary to just nerf the fucking things. So yeah, on the whole, as far as how this game played, I think I'll put it into the Vanguard category, where it's a game that could have been good if it wanted to be, but for whatever reason, the devs just didn't want to listen to the community and change the things that needed to be changed. Now, whether that was an Infinity Ward decision or an Activision decision, I have absolutely no idea. But the reality of the situation is that going into this game, I actually felt a lot better about it than I did about Vanguard even, but honestly, I would argue at this point that Vanguard ended up being a better game. Not necessarily because the devs did a better job taking care of it, but just because at this point in time, I think Vanguard is the more fun game to play. Also, I keep getting this La Casa map, dude. I want to try and get like launch maps just because I'm sure it'll remind me of things I want to talk about. I don't have a fucking list or anything. I really need to start like writing these videos down or something. And actually that leads me nicely into the next thing I think I want to talk about, which is the maps. Which honestly, I don't really have a strong opinion on this game's maps. I'm kind of curious to see how they play on a different game. I know some of this game's maps are supposed to be coming to Modern Warfare 3, which is a game that I'm hoping will play much more smoothly than this game did. At least as far as like flow and player movement and how people press up and stuff. I mean, maybe not so much this map. I honestly never really liked this map. But like, for example, Farm 18 is confirmed to be coming to Modern Warfare 3, which that's a map that tended to play pretty okay on this game as long as people didn't want to just sit back in the building. So who knows, maybe on Modern Warfare 3, if it's, you know, flowing better and people seem to want to move and the gameplay is a little bit more balanced, it might actually be really fun. But yeah, like I said, I don't really have a strong opinion on this game's maps just because mostly I think due to the way this game just played as far as the style goes and stuff, you know, the real sort of camp heavy, lay back, hold your position sort of tactical gameplay style. A lot of the maps on this game ended up not playing very well pretty quickly, especially when skill-based matchmaking started getting into gear. So ultimately, I got sick of cherry picking for the like 3 maps that I know did play well, and I ended up just spending most of the year in Shoot House and Shipment, which, I mean, that was fun sometimes, but honestly, it ended up contributing to a lot of why I didn't upload this game as much as I've uploaded other Call of Duties, just because I figured you guys wouldn't want to see, you know, Shoot House and Shipment for the 8 billionth time in a row, right? Now, I'll talk about content on this game in a little bit before I pivot into like content in general, but yeah, I did just want to make that one point about the maps. Like, you know, I am interested to see how some of these maps would play on a different Call of Duty, most notably Modern Warfare 3. Like, I am very curious to see how some of these maps will play once they're ported over, assuming they do what they say they're going to do anyway and actually port all these maps over. I mean, I don't know how many they're going to end up adding. Hopefully it's only the good ones too. Like, I don't really want to see, I don't remember what the fuck the bridge map is called, the one with all the cars. I could honestly do without seeing that one ever again, but like, you know, even this map, I mean, who knows? This map might be kind of fun on Modern Warfare 3. Now, I have mentioned the skill-based matchmaking a couple times, so I guess now's as good of a time as any to address that. I'm not going to go into like a full rant about it the way I have the last couple years, because you guys get the point. Skill-based matchmaking has been complained about to death by every single content creator, myself included. I am absolutely no exception to this rule, so I don't really need to go into the whole thing again. There's plenty of videos on my channel that you guys can find that I talk about it. But yeah, like I said, on top of all of this game's other problems as far as the pacing and, you know, the way it encouraged players to play on these maps, the skill-based matchmaking took all of that and amplified it to about 1,000. Even on the off chance you did manage to string a couple good games together on the market or Farm 18 or whatever, it would immediately be followed up by just an absolute sweat fest on this map or the hotel or one of the other maps where people really like to sit and camp, and next thing you know, you've played an entire game of Hardpoint and the highest guy in the lobby has like 14 kills. Which I understand Infinity Ward has this vision. They really want to make these like tactical shooters, but honestly, it's just not a fun way to play Call of Duty. And I'm hoping after a second year in a row of negative feedback, they will finally figure out that this is just not it, and they'll actually make some adjustments for whatever their next game's going to be, which will be what, 2026, I guess? 2025? I don't even know what Activision's plans are for this game anymore, man. So yeah, like I was just saying, as a result of pretty much everything I just mentioned, I ended up falling out of favor with this game pretty quickly. It's why I ended up uploading a lot of variety and stuff this year. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've wanted to get into variety content for a long time. I've talked about this to death. I never wanted this to just be a Call of Duty channel. I always wanted to be a variety creator. But I would be lying if I said that the state of this game didn't give me a bit of a kick in the butt to try and get into that sort of content a little bit more. And actually, before we continue on here, sorry, I know I'm sort of jumping around a lot. I'll try and put timestamps so you guys can sort of find one particular thing if you care about it. But I mentioned earlier about how we sort of found the Gunsmith annoying once the game came out, but I gotta say, that's another thing where during the reveals and in the beta, I actually sort of thought it would be a good addition. I mean, they advertised it pretty well, like, hey, you know, you unlock this laser on one weapon and you can use it for every weapon in the game. Now, granted, we didn't realize what they meant by that was you had to unlock the laser on one specific weapon in order to use it on everything in the game. I think the Gunsmith on the whole was just a massive step backwards. I've talked about it before, I'm really not a huge fan of the Gunsmith system in general. I kind of wish we would go back to like a pick 10 or something like that. I know people like their 5 attachments and stuff, but I gotta say, this weapon tuning shit was way too much. Especially considering the fact that half the time it didn't didn't even feel like it did anything. Like, maybe it's just me because I didn't really play this game a whole lot. Obviously, as you can see by my level up there, I barely played this fucking game. I'm level 299. I'm pretty sure I was like level 230 back in season 1. Like, I didn't play this game at all. Border Crossing, there we go. That was the map whose name I couldn't remember. I actually can't believe I forgot the name of this map. And that'll kind of bring me into my last point I wanted to talk about as far as this game goes, which is that I will say, back at the beginning, it still was kind of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know I just got done ranting about all this shit that we figured out was wrong with the game, and over time, we sort of realized that the game was not as good as we had expected it to be from the beta and stuff. But I do want to say, even after the release of the game, I was still having fun with it, pretty much because I had something to do. Because as you can see here, and I've mentioned before, I ended up going for the Platinum Sniper Challenge pretty much right when this game came out. And I'm not gonna lie, while I was doing that camo challenge, it was actually pretty fun. Now granted, a lot of that had to do with me doing weapon leveling and challenges in Invasion as opposed to regular multiplayer, but still, this game was actually pretty fun while I had a goal to achieve. It's just once that goal went away and I had the camos that I wanted, there really was no reason for me to play the game, because as we already discussed, the gameplay by itself got pretty stale pretty quickly, and on top of all that, I know I did say earlier that the simplification of the camo system was a good thing, and I would also argue that making the overall weapon leveling lower, as far as the max level for each weapon, is actually good for the multiplayer on the whole. It did make leveling up the weapons for the Camo Grind itself a complete pain in the ass, because unlike previous years where my biggest hurdle to completing camo challenges was things like mounted kills, long shots, or hip fires from behind with a sniper rifle, whatever the fuck, instead of that, my biggest challenge just ended up being leveling up the weapon. Once I had the weapon to level 30, I could get the camo challenges done pretty easily, especially once I had shipment. But the problem is it just took so long to level these weapons up, and obviously they did it that way so that, you know, people who only want to use 1 or 2 weapons wouldn't just run out of things to do immediately. But for those of us who wanted to try and complete camo challenges and stuff, it became pretty miserable. And ultimately, how tiring that process was just made me give up on going for the camo challenge at all. Now, we'll see how that ends up going in Modern Warfare 3. I honestly don't really plan on going for any of the Super Mastery camos in that game. I'll probably do Platinum Snipers or whatever that game's equivalent is, but I think that'll be about it. Maybe like melee weapons or something if I find them fun enough to use. I don't really plan on doing like ARs or subs or anything again. I know I got Platinum ARs on this game. Again, it was just because I was so bored I needed anything to do. So in the end, do I think Modern Warfare 2 is a bad game? Yes, actually I do think it was a bad game. But I don't think it was a bad game inherently. I think the problem with Modern Warfare 2 was the compounding of the sort of questionable design decisions that Infinity Ward made towards this game, the skill-based matchmaking, and Infinity Ward's just complete refusal to fix any of the problems that the community had. I think if they'd been a little bit more receptive, maybe a little bit faster in patching certain things, and listened to us more as far as what we wanted to see, even just little things like red dots on the minimap and dead silence, I genuinely think this game would have been a lot better. And again, I don't know how much of this was Activision versus Infinity Ward's decision making, but the reality is that it was just bad for the health of the game on the whole, and it's why this game is tanked so badly at this point in the year. Anyway, you guys get the point of all this rambling. I wasn't a huge fan of this game. I think it could have been good, but it is what it is. As far as the content I made on this game though, I actually am pretty happy with it. I think I had mentioned this back in Vanguard. I'm not sure if the video's still up or not, that I had felt like my Call of Duty videos were getting a bit stale. They were sort of the same, and I was really looking to get more creative with my videos. I just couldn't figure out how. And I'm pleased to say that I got out of that rut with this game. Even though for the most part, my Call of Duty content is still just, you know, this cut commentary style of shit. Whoever you want to compare it to, Dismo, Merc Music, whatever. I do think that I have made some of my best videos on this game, and I think I've gotten a lot better as a content creator on this game. And that extends beyond the editing as well. I mean, I know my thumbnails are still complete like weeb trash and shit, and are not even remotely close to YouTube best practices, but I will say that the click-through rate on my thumbnails on the whole, I know I don't really talk about statistics too much, on the whole, the performance has almost doubled from Vanguard. I was looking back at some of my Vanguard videos. The click-through rate on those videos was usually like 2-3% maybe, but on almost all of my Modern Warfare 2 videos, with maybe the exception of a couple that really tanked, for the most part, the click-through rate's around like 5%, 6%, like it's pretty good. And I think it's contributed a lot to my growth over this year, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, on the whole, I think I've improved a lot just as a content creator through making Modern Warfare 2 videos, so I can't really say the game was all bad in that regard. I know content on this game did start getting a little bit stale towards the end of the year, but honestly, I had started moving away from this game a little bit anyway, so I can't really say I care. And that's a perfect note just to transition from my review of this game to my review of the channel as a whole, which obviously this year has been a resounding success. We recently just passed 3,000 subscribers on the channel, which obviously the vast majority of you guys are new, but before Modern Warfare 2 came out, we hadn't even hit 1,000 yet, and the channel had been around for almost 3 years at that point. On top of all that, some of you guys might remember that I actually came back for the Modern Warfare 2 beta from a 3-month break, and there was a part of me that was genuinely concerned that the few of you guys who were subscribed and were watching me regularly back at that point would have like forgotten about me and just weren't gonna come back. And I'm definitely happy to say that wasn't the case. You guys absolutely welcomed welcomed me back with open arms and kicked off some pretty substantial growth for the channel. I mean, just over the first 2 months of this game's life cycle, I went from 700 subs, which, like I said, took me the better part of 2.5 years to achieve, to well over 1,000, and I think I ended up hitting 2,000 subscribers pretty quickly after that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of factors involved with this, some of it just being, you know, this game, there was a lot of hype for this game when it first came out, and like I mentioned before, I have gotten a bit better, I think, at making content as far as thumbnails, tags, titles, and shit like that. You know, the metadata boring part of YouTube, the stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with being creative. But still, all that stuff aside, it was a massive year as far as growth of the channel. I mean, we've essentially more than quadrupled in size. I mean, if we started the year at what, 700 subs? And now we're at 3,300? Like, hey man, all I can say is hopefully we stay on this trajectory. If the channel quadruples in size this year, I'm looking pretty fucking good. But obviously, it's not just the subscriber count. I mean, subscribers are nice, but they don't mean a whole lot. You see a lot of channels out there who, you know, they'll have like 5, 10, sometimes even 100,000 subscribers, but if you look at their videos, they don't really get any views. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes, you know, the channel's really old and they only have a few dedicated fans left, or sometimes people went viral off one video and never really managed to replicate it. But probably one of the proudest aspects of the channel for me is the fact that not only are you guys all subscribed, but you come to watch my videos. Like, yeah, obviously I get that statistic that every YouTuber fucking shows, like, oh, I noticed the bulk of you guys aren't subscribed. You need to go hit the subscribe button. And while I do certainly notice that, I also notice that there are a large number of you guys that come back and watch all of my videos. Some of you guys, regardless of what it is. I mean, I know a lot of you guys subscribe just for Call of Duty. Some of you guys subscribe to just for my variety series. But it is nice to see that you guys seem to just enjoy my videos and enjoy watching me. Which again, it's just really important to me because that's the kind of YouTuber I always wanted to be. I never really wanted to be somebody who was locked into one game, or everybody only ever wanted to see me play one game or do content on one game. I know I sound really nonchalant right now because that's just kind of the way I talk, but it really does mean more than you guys know to see that you guys seem to enjoy just watching my videos regardless of what they are and regardless of what game I'm playing, what the subject matter is. You get what I'm trying to say. Just thank you guys so much. And obviously the support's paid off. I mean, this year, I mentioned it a while ago, but back in like May, I think it was, we ended up hitting YouTube Partner, which is a point that I never really thought I'd get to on this channel. I remember back when I started, I said I just wanted to get 100 subscribers. That's all I really wanted. And now here we are and we're approaching 4,000. But yeah, we've obviously still got goals. I still want to keep the channel growing. I still want to keep pushing the limits of my content for you guys. Believe it or not, every single episode I put out, I really do try to make at least one little thing better for you guys. Whether it's a tiny edit here, a sound effect, audio mixing, whatever it might be, I am still trying to improve. You know, I want to be better at this. Showdown, huh? Kind of a weird map to close this game out on. I would have preferred to do it on like Farm 18 or something, but hey, I don't make the rules. Anyway, to bring this whole thing to a close, I just want to thank you guys all so much for the support once again. I know I'm not like a lot of other YouTubers where, you know, they'll thank their subscribers at the beginning, middle, and end of each and every single video that they make, which I know some people find cringe, but honestly, I do think that's endearing. But yeah, since I don't really do that too much, I just want to say thank you guys all right now. I really do appreciate you guys supporting me through all this and, you know, making me feel like all the work I put into this channel is appreciated, because I do put a lot of work into this channel. Probably an inadvisable amount, to be honest with you. But yeah, seeing all the support you guys put out on basically every single video I make at this point has really been one of the bright spots for me this year. Because to be completely honest with you guys, it has been a pretty rough year for me outside of YouTube. As far as personal life shit, professional shit, I know not a whole lot of you guys were around back when I made the original video on the Mr. Beast incident, which kind of kicked off how crappy this year was for me. And to be honest, I'm sort of in the middle of a similar situation right now, which really sucks. It's not as bad as the last time. I'm not gonna end up unemployed or anything like that. So all things considered, it definitely could be worse. But yeah, if nothing else, I do just hope you guys know you have been a massive bright spot in what's otherwise been a pretty shitty year on the whole. And it's not even just the Call of Duty stuff. I mentioned variety briefly earlier, but another reason why I've been so happy with this channel's growth over the course of the year is the fact that my variety content has also been pretty well received by you guys. I did a few one-offs on games like Metroid Prime that you guys seem to really like. I did a few Elden Ring videos a while back that seemed to do well. And I know a lot of you guys have been really liking the Lies of P stuff recently. I'm actually kind of astounded. My Lies of P videos on the whole outperformed all but 2 of my videos that I did on the Modern Warfare 3 beta. But it's interesting to me because that game's initial hype has definitely died down. I mean, I have been sort of taking my time with the playthrough. Whereas Modern Warfare 3, obviously I did all that beta content like as the beta was out, you know, the hype was fresh, it was there, everybody was really excited to see it. So it's really cool to see that even though the game's not necessarily fresh and new anymore, you guys are still excited to see each and every new episode. And yeah, it really just feels like a long time mission accomplished because, as I said previously, I never really set out to just be a Call of Duty creator. I always wanted to be somebody who played multiple games and did a lot of different stuff. So it is nice to feel like all the work I've put towards that end is finally starting to pay off. And that brings me into the last thing I wanted to mention on this topic, which is next year. As far as like my plans for it, what I really want to do, and my outlook. Obviously, I am going to continue with Call of Duty content. I'm planning to really ramp up with Modern Warfare 3. Don't get me wrong, I'm not getting rid of the variety content by any means. It's not just going to be Call of Duty nonstop the way it used to be back in like Black Ops Cold War or anything anything like that. But that being said, assuming Modern Warfare 3 is anywhere near as fun as I think it's going to be, I kind of get the feeling that the content on that game is going to be pretty good, at least as far as my channel goes. And don't think I'm going to be neglecting the variety content either. I have a whole ton of different ideas of stuff I want to do, even after Modern Warfare 3 comes out. And I've got a whole bunch of ideas for non-gaming content that I kind of want to try and implement. For those of you who remember, I did do a couple of non-gaming related videos, like my anime review video, for example. I've got some ideas sort of in that vein that I kind of want to try exploring as well. And I've mentioned it before, but I do actually want to try and implement some kind of VTubing on this channel at some point in time. I realize that might sound weird considering I've talked about this a million times and it appears that I've made zero progress on it, but trust me when I tell you I have a whole ton of ideas of how I'd implement something like that in my style of video, and once I find the right artist and learn how to incorporate that sort of technology in my videos, honestly, I think it really will kick my content to the next level. Anyway, I think that about wraps this one up. I'm sure this was completely disorganized, all over the place, and probably way too long. Hopefully those of you guys who are still around were able to follow everything I was talking about and all of it made sense and stuff. Like I said, I really gotta start writing these down, dude. On the whole, Modern Warfare 2, bit of a disappointment, I'm not gonna lie. I really do think this game shot itself in the foot. I'm not in that camp of content creators who think this game was just doomed from the start and it had no chance to be great or anything like that. I really do think that much like Vanguard, this game is just a victim of its own refusal to listen to the community and change. And hopefully it's a lesson learned for Sledgehammer as far as Modern Warfare 3 goes, because much like this game, I am feeling pretty high on that one coming off the beta, and hopefully they're able to deliver. And like I said, as far as the channel goes, just thank you all once again for all the support this year. We've achieved an insane amount of growth over the last 12 months, more than I ever thought possible in 1 year for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of thought I'd hit 3,000 subscribers at some point. I just sort of thought it would take me way longer to get there. And yeah, hopefully this spells a positive trajectory for the channel. I'm feeling really good about how things are going. And also, once again, just thank you all so much for the support on not just the Call of Duty videos, but also the variety stuff. I put a ton of work into this channel, and the variety videos are no exception. Most of the time, they actually take even more work than my Call of Duty stuff does. So yeah, just thank you guys so much for supporting and making me feel like all my work that I put into this is worth it. And of course, as always, if you did enjoy this video, definitely make sure you leave a like. And if you're new and you made it to this point, then subscribe and stick around. That's about it. Goodbye and good riddance to Modern Warfare 2, and I will see you all in Modern Warfare 3.